Welcome to part 33 of our series on building a Zelda-like game in Phaser 3. In this video, we'll bring our dungeon to life by adding buttons and traps, introducing new mechanics that create interactive puzzles and challenges for the player. If you're new here, this is part of a full series where we create a Zelda-inspired game from scratch. Check out the playlist link in the description to start from the beginning. Alright, let's dive in and add buttons and traps to our game. Now that we've set up our various level objects, like pots, chests, doors, and enemies, using our tile data, it's time to take our dungeon to the next level. In this section, we'll be focusing on dungeon mechanics, things like traps, inventory management, locked doors, and how chests interact with our player's progress. These mechanics will add depth to our gameplay, making the dungeon feel more interactive and engaging. Let's jump in and start bringing our dungeon to life. For our dungeon mechanics, we'll start off with our traps. For our traps, we have two main types. One is tied to our buttons or our switches, so when our player presses one of these, this could reveal a chest or unlock one of our trap doors. The second is tied to us defeating all of the enemies in our room. So when we defeat all the enemies in the room, this could also reveal a chest or open a door. To get us started, we'll focus on our buttons and continue from where we left off when we added our buttons to our game scene. So let's jump over to our game scene. To start, first we're going to update our property for our switches on our objects by room ID field on our class. Currently we have this set to unknown, and now that we have our button class, let's add in our type for our button. Now if we come down to the bottom of our class, we have our method for handling when we press one of our buttons. So when we call our handle button press method, first we'll want to call our press method on our button, and the results we get back, we'll want to take a look at the action type, and depending on that, we'll do different things in our code. And the results we get back, we'll want to take a look at our action. If our action is to open a door, we'll need to find that door by its ID and open it, and if it's reveal a chest, we'll need to find our chest by its ID and then reveal it. To add in these changes, let's get rid of our console log. First, we'll call our button press method, and we want to store this in a variable, so we'll do const, we'll do button press data. We're going to set that equal to our button, and we'll call the press method. Alright, so once we have our button press data, first we're going to make sure we actually have a target ID for the action, and if we don't have any IDs, we won't do anything. And we'll also check our action type. So for our switches, we have some floor switches in our dungeon that won't actually do anything, and our player needs to figure out what switch they actually need to press. So if our type is set to nothing, we don't need to do anything else in our code. So let's do if our button press data, if our target IDs, if our length of our list is equal to 0, we don't want to do anything, or if our button press data, if our action is equal to our switch action, nothing, we can return early. So if we don't return early, now we want to check our action type. So let's do switch. We'll have our button press data, we'll have our action. Now we'll add in our cases. So let's do our switch action type. We'll do open door. For now, we'll just do break. Let's copy this and we'll do our other types. So now we'll do reveal chest, then we'll do reveal key, and then we'll have our default statement. So let's just replace this with default. And for our default statement, we'll call our exhaustive guard. So we'll pass in our button press data, and then our action. So now in our switch statement, let's start off by handling our open door case. We'll want to take our button press data, we'll want to grab our target IDs, and for each of our IDs, we'll want to find the relevant door and open that door up. So we need to reference our objects by room ID. We want to grab the room ID we're currently in. Now we want to reference our door map. Then we want to use our ID from our target IDs array, and then we want to call open on that door. Now for revealing our chest, we'll want to take a similar approach, but now we want to reference our chest map and call reveal. So I'm going to copy this line of code, let's paste it. Now we want to grab our chest map, and instead of calling open, we want to reveal our chest. So now if we want to test our changes, let's come back over to our browser. Let's go into our next dungeon room. Now we'll have our player step on our various switches, so if we do the bottom left, there should be nothing that happens. If we do our top right, that should reveal our chest in our room. Our top left should do nothing, and then our bottom right should open up our door. That was our trap door. And just to make sure everything's working properly, we're going to test out another room. So if we go into our preload scene, let's update our room ID. We'll go into room ID 5. We'll update our door ID to be 1. So now when our browser refreshes, if we have our player step on our switch, it should open up both of our doors. Now if we come down to our pot game object, we'll see we have an issue where once our player overlaps with our trigger, we're revealing our chest, but we actually don't want to do that until we step on our pressure plate. So to fix that, we'll need to update our register collision logic in our game scene. So if we go to our register colliders method, We'll want to move our code for where we check to see if our player overlaps with one of our button presses, and we want to do that after we do our collision check between our player and our blocking group. So now if we make that change, if we have a player come down to our pot, we'll see now our chest no longer shows up, but if we pick up our pot game object, we'll see now we have our button, and if our player overlaps with it, now our chest is revealed. Nice. Alright, so back in our preload scene, let's reset our change for our room ID and our door ID. For our trap dungeon mechanic, we'll next focus on our traps that are tied to when our enemies are defeated in our room. To support this, we'll emit an event every time we defeat an enemy in one of our rooms, and then in our game scene, we can listen for this event. When we get this event, we'll grab our enemy group tied to the room our player is currently in, and we'll make sure all the enemies are defeated for that room. And so we'll want to structure our code in a way where we can reuse this same method for when our player enters into one of our rooms. And so as an example, we currently have our trap type of revealing our doors once we defeat all of our enemies in our room. For our dungeon, after our player defeats all of the relevant enemies in our room, we don't want to respawn them until our player dies or we leave our dungeon. Due to that, once our player enters in one of our rooms, if our door should already be opened, we'll want to trigger that from our reveal logic. To get started with our changes, let's open up our event bus. Currently we have our custom event for when we open up one of our chests. We're going to extend this object to have two new events, one for when our player is defeated and one for every time we destroy an enemy. So we'll add an enemy destroyed, and then we'll do player defeated. So now to emit these events, we'll want to do this from our death state. So if we jump over to our death state, let's come down to our trigger defeated event method. So once our player or our enemy takes enough damage, we'll play our animation for having that game object be destroyed, and we'll disable it from our scene, and this will also be our spot where we emit these events. So after we disable our game object, before we call our callback, let's send out our event. So we're just going to check our game object type if it's an enemy or if it's our player, and we'll emit the relevant event. So we'll do if this, if our game object is our enemy, we'll do our event bus, we'll do our emit, and we want to do our custom events, and we'll do our enemy destroyed. If it's not our enemy, then it's our player. Now we can emit the other event that we created. So we'll do player defeated. Now that we're sending out our event, we need to update our game scene to listen for this event. To listen for our events, let's go to our register custom events method. In our method, we'll listen for our new event, so let's copy our line of code here. We'll update our event we want to listen for. We'll have our enemy destroyed. And now we'll tie this to a new method, and we'll call this check for all enemies are defeated. And so now we'll want to turn off our event listener if our scene shuts down. So let's copy that line, we'll paste it. We're going to change this to off. Let's copy our method name, we'll want to add that to our class. So let's come down to the bottom of our file. We'll add in our new private method. As now for our method, we won't receive any arguments. And now we'll want to grab the relevant enemy group tied to the room our player is currently in. So we'll store that in a variable, so const, we'll do our enemy group. So we equal to this, our objects by room ID, our current room ID. Now we want to grab our enemy group. So then once we have our enemy group, now we want to iterate through all of our child game objects, and we'll want to make sure either that object is one of our Wisp enemies, or if it's another enemy type, we want to make sure they're no longer active. As long as all of our child game objects meet that criteria, then we'll know all of our enemies for our current room are defeated. So to do that check, first we'll add a safeguard to make sure our enemy group's defined. So we'll do if our enemy group, if it's undefined, we can just return early. Otherwise, we'll make a new variable, do const. We'll do all required enemies defeated. For this, we'll set equal to our enemy group. We'll do get children. And we'll call every. And now we have our child game object. First, we'll check to see if our child's not active. So if our child game object, so we'll do if not, our child game object is active, then we can return true. If the child game object is active, now we'll check its type. So we'll do if our child is an instance of our Wisp class, then we can return true. And then finally, if neither of those are true, we'll return false. Now with our logic here, we'll make sure all of our child enemy game objects for our current room are either not active or they're Wisp enemies. And as long as that's all true, now we can do our check to see if we need to reveal our trap doors or our trap chest. So for that, let's do an if statement. We'll do if all of our required enemies are defeated. If all of our enemies are defeated, Now we'll call a new method to do that logic for revealing our chest and our doors. And so for this new method, we're going to call it handle all enemies defeated. So we'll do this, handle all enemies defeated. Let's copy that method name, and we'll add that method below this one. For our method, we won't have any arguments, and we won't return anything. So now we'll want to grab all of our chess game objects for our current room, and if our reveal trigger is our trap type of enemies defeated, we'll reveal our chests, and we'll do the same thing for our doors. So to grab those objects, we'll do this. We'll do our objects by room ID. We want to grab our current room ID. Now we want to grab our chest. We'll do for each. Now we'll have our chest game object. Now we'll check our types. We'll do if our chest, our reveal trigger, is equal to our trap type of enemies defeated. Now we want to reveal our chest, so we'll do chest, we'll do reveal. Let's copy this block of code. We'll do the same thing for our doors. So now we'll have our doors array for each of our door game objects. We want to reference our trapdoor trigger. And if it's our trap type enemies defeated, now we want to do door, and we want to call our open method. Finally, for our enemies defeated logic, we also want to invoke our method where we do our check when our player enters into one of our rooms. So let's come up to our handle room transition method. And in our onComplete handler, for once we animate our player back into our room, after we update our current room ID, this is where we'll do our check. So we'll do this, we'll do check for all enemies are defeated, and let's save. So now if we want to test our changes, we'll want to update our player's position to be in a room with one of our trap types. So let's open up our preload scene. Let's update our room ID. Let's go to room 6. We'll update our door ID to be 1. And let's open up our config. And let's update our enemy's health. And we're going to set it to 1. And to make sure our player doesn't die, let's bump up our player's health. So let's do our player's max health. We're going to set this to 20. So now if we want to test our changes, let's refresh our browser. So in this particular room, we have a chest that should be revealed once all of our enemies are defeated. So if we have our player come up to the top of our scene, we should see our chest body, but our chest should not be visible. Let's have our player run into our other remaining spiders. So now if we come up to the top of our scene, we should see our chest game object has now been revealed and our player can interact with it. And so now to do our test for our door, if we come back to our preload scene, let's update our room ID. We want to go to room 2, and we'll go to our door ID of 1. Alright, so now in this room, once all of our enemies are defeated, we should open up both of our trap doors. Nice. Alright, so let's revert our changes to our preload scene. So let's go back to our room ID of 3, our door ID of 3, come back to our config, we'll reset our player's health, and we'll reset our spider's health. That's it for this part of the series. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you're following along, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. If you have any questions or want to share your progress, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Alright, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.